All right, so for this example, before I even graph, I see that my first term, my A term, is a -1. So that means my parabola is going to be an unhappy face parabola, and the vertex is going to be a maximum. It's going to be the highest point of my graph. Okay, I also know that there's no B term, there's no BX term, so I'm gonna get a 0, and I'm gonna have a C equals 4. Now, that C term, remember, it tells me that from my parent function, it's gonna shift my graph up 4 units. So instead of my vertex being at 0, 0, it might be at 0, 4 instead. So let's check that first by plugging into the axis of symmetry. So when I find the axis of symmetry, I'm going to have x equals -0 over 2 times -1. Then when I simplify, I get 0, because there's no such thing as -0, over -2, and 0 divided by -2 is 0. So my axis of symmetry is at x equals 0. I just filled that in down here. So I'm going to have a dotted line going through x equals 0. That's my fold line. That's my axis of symmetry. Now remember, the axis of symmetry is also the x-coordinate of your vertex. So I have a 0 here for my vertex. And then to find my y-coordinate, I'm gonna plug 0 into my function. So I'll keep it in red so that we can just follow along here. I'm gonna have -0 squared plus 4. Well, 0 squared is 0, times the negative is still 0, so I get 0 plus 4. That gives me 4. So my vertex is at 0, 4 right here on the y-axis. Okay, then let's plug a point from the left and 1 point from the right. So let's do 1 and -1. Now when I plug in -1 in for x squared, I get -1 squared plus 4. -1 times -1 is +1, but there's a negative in front here. So I'm still gonna have a -1 plus 4, and that gives me +3. So I have 3 here. Now because parabolas are symmetrical, since this is 3, this one should also be 3. But let's check, let's make sure. So -1 squared plus 4. Well, that's still 1, so that gives me -1 plus 4. That still gives me 3, so it checks out. Okay, so -1, 3, that's right here. And +1, 3, that's right here. All right, so then I'm going to go ahead and graph my parabola in a U shape, just like that. And then let's answer the rest of these questions. Oh, my vertex, I forgot to write. My vertex was at 0, 4. Remember, it's a maximum. Number of solutions, roots, and zeros. Well, the green parabola, the green U, touches the x-axis twice, so there are 2 solutions. And the solutions are, well, it touches the x-axis at -2 and +2. So we're gonna go ahead and say x equals -2 and x equals +2 are the 2 solutions. The domain, it's always all real numbers. This is the fancy sign for that. And then the range, well, it starts on the y-axis and it goes down. So it starts at 4. So we're gonna say y is less than or equal to 4. And now I want you to try number 3.